we are at the end game of Zionism. If people wonder why I care about Israel-Palestine so much, this is why. How many times have I told you guys the direct connection between the IDF, training with the police, apartheid, in the police state that we live in right now? We have done so many streams talking about that. People, oh my God, RBN is crazy. RBN is radical. Now you guys seeing it in real time. So with that said, I'm gonna introduce Nico's hotspot as a way to introduce this topic. And I have a lot of stuff to show you guys.
Inspired by the protesters at Columbia University, the students at the University of Texas decided to get out and protest themselves to show solidarity with the pro-Palestine movement. But after being outside protesting for a few minutes, not the campus police, not the city police, the state troopers of Texas showed up to antagonize and arrest protesters. In fact, by the end of the evening, at least 50 people were arrested merely for exercising their First Amendment right and protesting a genocide. That's right, these police look real big, bad, and brave when they're attacking peaceful protesters, but these are the same police that were nowhere to be found during the Uvalde massacre. And I know we got some state bootlickers that are probably like, no, they had to be chanting something violent, threatening somebody. They had to be engaging in some sort of violent behavior for the state troopers to get brought out. No, they literally didn't have time to, because the state troopers were already mobilized and the protest had only lasted 4 minutes before they showed up. It only became violent because the police started the violence. Oh, but don't worry, to their credit, they're not even trying to pretend that they're arresting these protesters for being violent. Here's Governor Abbott saying the arrests are being made right now and will continue until the crowd disperses. These protesters belong in jail. Anti-Semitism will not be tolerated in Texas. Students joining hate-filled anti-Semitic protests in a public college or university should be expelled. So in other words, they're not breaking a single law. You just don't like the issue they're protesting, and so you are having them arrested. That's a violation of the First Amendment, Mr. Conservative.
Some colleges are banning free speech on college campuses. Well, no more, because I'm about to sign a law that protects free speech on college campuses in Texas.
Also, that's just some of the most fascistic shit that I have ever heard. Here's another one of those constitutional conservatives, Laura Loomer, crying because Donald Trump was not allowed to go to his hearing this morning, screaming that it's totally unconstitutional at 9:16 a.m. And here's Laura Loomer at 8:10 a.m. of the same morning. Stop calling them anti-Israel protesters. This is no longer about Israel. This is about anti-American support for Islamic terrorist organizations. These people are anti-American, Hamas-supporting Jew haters. I don't understand how someone could have such a jarring lack of self-awareness. Holy shit. Not to mention, Laura Loomer is one of the main proponents of trying to free those who were jailed because of their participation in the January 6th protests. So I just want to make this clear. Abbott, Loomer, and many conservatives have already made it crystal clear. The protests aren't violent. They don't care about that. They want them arrested for exercising their constitutional right. Governor Abbott of Texas and the University of Texas brought state troopers in to beat the hell out of students out of loyalty to a foreign nation committing a genocide. Nah, these people aren't class traitors. They are traitors to their nation. They are treasonous. They will punish the citizens, the brothers and sisters of their country in order to display their twisted loyalty to a genocidal regime. You officially have government officials saying your First Amendment constitutional rights do not apply in the United States if it means that it upsets their masters over in Israel. And y'all gonna take that?
Our boy Nico House is too powerful, bro. I was just on Nico's show yesterday. If you guys want, it was a powerful stream as always. This is our hotspot brother, my fellow hotspot assassins telling the truth. Christian Zionism, Americans that allowed this to happen are Confederate level traitors. As I said, as far as I'm concerned, because we had Israeli Zionist fascists. Because once again, Israel is not a democracy; it's a fascist apartheid state. If you are an Arab, a Palestinian Arab that works in Israel, there's a lot of them, and you tweet about what's happening in Gaza right now, they will throw your ass in prison, and that will probably be the last time we will ever see you. And so every time people say Israel democracy, you gotta understand that's the reality of Israel. You understand Israel is a state where these Orthodox Jewish people who are critical of the government are constantly getting the fuck beat out of them by Israeli police, thrown in prison. They are an oppressive fascist regime who see what happened in the United States, and they're like, why the fuck are you guys putting up with this? You guys are putting up with your populists protesting your wars? So here's Netanyahu, among many others, for the sake of the stream, I'm going to show you guys the big guy in charge. But guys, the amount of Israeli officials that have been going on corporate news saying this shit is insanity. Saying that the United States need to crack down on protests. So let's hear from Netanyahu himself.
What's happening on America's college campuses is horrific. Anti-Semitic mobs have taken over leading universities. They call for the annihilation of Israel. They attack Jewish students. They attack Jewish faculty. This is reminiscent of what happened in German universities in the 1930s. It's unconscionable. It has to be stopped. It has to be condemned, and condemned unequivocally. But that's not what happened. The response of several university presidents was shameful. Now, fortunately, state, local, federal officials, many of them have responded differently, but there has to be more. More has to be done. It has to be
Bro, you guys have been seeing it too, and I'm going to show you guys some example of the fascism that we were seeing, because the United States is listening to this guy, but he's seeing the insane police violence, the crackdowns against protests of the government against war, and Netanyahu's message is that there should be more. He also said campus administrators are not doing enough, meaning campus administrators are not throwing their student free speech away. I told you guys 1,000 times that Claudine Gay is deplorable to me, because Claudine Gay, you know, the former Harvard president that was fired, she condemned Palestinian protests in very strong terms. Her crime was, she was like, yeah, I think these people are horrible, but technically they got First Amendment rights. You guys realize that was her sin? That was the sin that she did, and then white America proceeded to destroy her for advocating for the free speech rights of Americans, even though she said the protesters was like terrorist support. Like her statement was actually very deplorable. But she said, oh, technically they got the right to do it though, and she was fucking destroyed. So that's what Netanyahu's talking about. And this is the person who's given direction to Mike Johnson, to Joe Biden, who also condemned the protesters. They're listening to Netanyahu, not the American people. This is Zionist fascism being imported in our country. Well, I guess that's you can say redundant. I admit that when I say Zionist fascism. You either just say Zionist or you just say fascism. To be honest. Does that make sense, chat? Either say Zionist or you say they're fascists. It's the same fucking thing. Let's continue. We don't have to watch the whole video, Daniel. I'll just play a little bit more of his unhinged statements.
Not only because they attack Israel, that's bad enough. Not only because they want to kill Jews wherever they are, that's bad enough. It's also, when you listen to them, it's also because they say not only death to Israel, death to the Jews, but death to America. And this tells us that there's an anti-Semitic surge here that has terrible consequences. We see this exponential rise of anti-Semitism throughout America and throughout Western societies as Israel tries to defend itself against genocidal terrorism.
Now, so I want you guys to remember, every single time you hear someone say that is anti-Semitic to criticize Israel and the war in Israel. They are repeating Netanyahu talking points. You know, since the liberals hate Netanyahu so much, John Fetterman, actually not even John Fetterman. John Fetterman's so unhinged, he won't criticize Netanyahu. So that's actually a bad example. But like the Nancy Pelosi's, the Ilhan Omars, we'll get to her later. All these fake progressives, all these liberals, the Katie Porters, all these people. Netanyahu, Israel would be great. It went for Netanyahu. Bro, and Netanyahu did what you guys want to do. The Israeli fascist populists will have him hung by a tree. There's only 2% of Israelis in early polls that show that Israel was bombing and killing too many Palestinians. The overwhelming majority of Israel is upset at Netanyahu for not finishing the job. They criticize the government for not bombing enough. So the idea that people just paint on Netanyahu is absurd. So these people pretend that Netanyahu is the worst thing ever. No, you are repeating literal Netanyahu talking points. Literally everyone on MSNBC, I guess that's who it applies to. Now, here you see Joe Biden getting direction from Benjamin Netanyahu. Now, this is technically before Netanyahu's statement, but you guys think they wasn't having a huddle? They openly said that they was having huddles. There's direct channels between the United States and Israel. So as these campus protests pop up, you think Joe Biden and Netanyahu didn't have a conversation before this? That's who they are following directions from. Joe Biden is the most well-funded AIPAC candidate of all time. He knows who his masters are. So Israel wanted United States officials to condemn protests, and Joe Biden jumped. Israel said jump, and Biden said how high. Now, the thing is, this is actually fantastic. The second I saw this headline, the second I saw Biden condemn the protest, I was like, oh my God. Thank you for the revolutionary victory. Oh, you guys are truly amateurs now at managing the empire. We're in that nepotism baby stage, my friends, where people like Henry Kissinger was masterfully evil. The people who built these empires are masterfully evil. Now the people who's run the empire are nepo babies. Or they climbed a ladder where there's no meritocracy. The people who climbed are the biggest whores. Joe Biden is the biggest whore for AIPAC of all time. That's why he's president. He's not president because he's the smartest. Hell, he's not even president because he's the best at managing the empire, because that's actually how empires start. The evilest, most brilliant mastermind rises to the top, but then that thing continues as the empire get more and more arrogant, as corruption continues to get worse. You get the dumbest among the nepo babies who still out, the most shameless of the traitors who still out to capital, like Biden. So they don't even know how to manage the empire. Do you guys understand how much of a fuck up this is by Joe Biden? This is possibly the worst thing Biden could have possibly said. Because Biden, Genocide Joe, who is historically unpopular, so hated by young people that he's even in the race with a Republican with young support, he then comes out and says, hey guys, I know I'm supporting a war you guys don't like. I know you guys don't like me. I know you guys trying to protest me, but cut it out. He said, cut it out. What do you think was going to happen? Do you think people were like, oh, man, yeah, fuck Joe Biden, but he said cut it out, so I guess we go home. No, sir. You sparked one of the greatest moments of revolutionary actions that we have seen in years. So because of Joe Biden and Netanyahu coming out so strongly, you want to know what young people did? They was like, fuck you. If you're going to tell me not to protest, we're going to protest even harder. So this was a Colombia. Well, there was protests everywhere, but Colombia, with their encampments, they really started a trend. And after Colombia was condemned by the Biden administration, we now see massive protests in response. We're literally living in, and it's crazy. I'm a student of history. It's funny, man. I tell you guys, historians tell people all the time that history is important to study because history repeats itself. History is very parallel, especially if people don't learn their lesson. Guys, it's crazy how true that is. It's crazy how true that is. Because this is exactly like Vietnam. You gotta know, I've been telling you guys a lot about Vietnam. The details I don't tell you, the mass atrocities. I just told you guys about the torture stuff. This is exactly like Vietnam. A war that they're losing because Israel and the West is losing to Hamas in the resistance. So you got a war where people are losing. Israel is a country that's very casualty averse. There's massive casualties in the IDF. Israel not even releasing totals is so bad. Guys, it's fucking crazy that we are literally living through another Vietnam. Here's the Washington Post story. The image. More arrests and canceled commencements as college anti-war protests spread. You got remote learning. You got being canceled for remote learning now.